first step you want to do is to depressurize the whole RO system. And the first thing you want to do is turn the incoming water pressure off. Make sure it's off. And if it's hooked up to a float valve in a reservoir, you want to make sure the float valve is not being pushed up by the water, that this RO line is not pressurized. And you can do that by simply relieving the float valve. And then you want to open up the flush valve, and that will allow the pressure to go out of the drain side of the membrane. I've turned off the input water pressure, I've relieved the pressure from a float valve, and I've opened the flush valve. This unit is depressurized. Now it's safe to remove the pre-filters. So let's start by just removing the carbon and the sediment. And to do that, it's quite simple. You're just going to use your filter wrench, place it up over the canister, and turn it counterclockwise, lightly, and spin them off, like this. And do the same thing for the sediment filter. Just give it a little turn. And you can set the head of the unit down. These are brand new filters, but your filters will be much dirtier. And what you want to do is pour the water out. Make sure you don't lose the O-rings that are seated in the throat of this canister. And if this filter is really dirty, you're welcome to wash it out with dish soap and water. Give it a rinse, clean it out. And the same thing with the other canister. Make sure you don't lose the O-ring, clean it out well. In this example, we're using a KDF carbon filter and a pleated sediment filter. What you want to do is take a little bit of silicone grease, like this, just a little bit on your finger, and you want to make sure these O-rings are nicely lubricated, like that. You're also welcome to take those O-rings out and clean any scale that's formed on them and give them a little rub down. These are brand new. So you just want to make sure you get a little bit of silicone, food grade silicone grease. We have it on the website. And what this does is, on the next filter change, it allows this canister to come off with ease. If you don't grease those O-rings up, they can pinch when you put them on, cause a leak, and then the next time you try to get it off, it could be on there, it could be welded on there. So the grease is important. And simply take a new sediment filter, place it in the canister, take the new carbon filter. Now to change the membrane on a GX200 is very simple. I'm going to turn it around the back side so you can see it. What we want to do is disconnect the tube that feeds the carbon filter into the membrane, and just let that hang aside. And we're simply going to twist this cap off counterclockwise to loosen. Okay? If this unit's been running for a long time without a membrane change and really scaly water, this could be really tough to get off. And if that's the case, we like to use these little union wrenches or oil filter wrenches. You can get these at Harbor Freight, you can get them at plumbing stores. And what you can do is just wrap the wrench around it, hold it on this side, and just turn. Alternatively, you can pull it out of the housing, have one person hold one end while you hold this end, and both of you twist. This is a brand new unit, so it's going to come off real easy. There's two O-rings on these housings. Make sure you don't lose them. On some of our older units, there was an O-ring seated in here. Make sure you don't lose that one. All the new units have two O-rings on them, and they're already seated on the housing. So what you're going to do is take a pair of pliers, just put it around the core tube nipple here, and pull the membrane straight out, like this. Just like that. And just as we did earlier, you're welcome to clean the inside of the membrane housing out too. It'll probably be discolored, a little yellowed. If you've got iron in your water, it'll be bright orange. You can clean that out. I'm going to put this brand new membrane back in. What you want to do is take a GX200, and the same thing we did with the pre-filters. We're going to take a little bit of silicone grease, and we're going to put a little bit around the O-rings on the core tube, and we're going to put some on the brine seal, this rubber brine seal here. And again, this is going to make this membrane easy to get out on the next change. And simply slide the membrane into the tube, push it all the way. You'll feel it seat into the end of the membrane. You can put a little grease on these O-rings too as well. These are greased up already. And just hand tighten it. Reconnect the tube from the carbon filter output, like so. And the membrane's changed. Then we can reattach the pre-filter housings, spin them up. We're only going to hand tighten them. If you're not that strong or you have a bruised forearm, you can use the wrench. Just don't over tighten it. So a little bit. And we're going to do the same thing with the carbon filter. Spin it up. And there you have it. We just changed the filters on a GX200. And again, before you start this unit up, you're going to want to flush the carbon filter. So you can reference an earlier video on the connection and setup of these units and make sure you flush the carbon filter. You don't want to run that carbon dust into a membrane. Close the flush valve when you're done, put it back into normal running mode, and you're up and running again.